Deek, Basha Anadak, Guineas, Micah Turner, Valencia Morrow, Dawn Turnage, Mike Ray, Gene Leeson, Chief Davis, Kevin Flynn, Aaron Bishop, Chuck Shasho, Jermaine Kitchen, Jeff Limbian, Julius Oliver, Nikki Posterly, Mike Jerkin, Jimmy Hughes, Anita Davis, Kyle Mizak, Harry Johnson. Did I miss anybody? Okay. Then we will get started under our legislation. The first one up here is item number 5. Questions? Okay. Item number 6. Questions for the street department? Okay, item number 7. Samantha.
Thank you. Through the chair, Kevin, what does this take us with the age of our fleet? What were the oldest snowplow trucks we have?
Through the chair, we still have a handful of 1999 models. This 3 will allow us to send a couple of them out to the scrap, but this will keep us at that 19 number of trucks, which also gives us a little buffer for the circumstances when a couple of trucks do break down in season, so we don't have drivers sitting.
I'm sorry, you said that this will keep us at 19 vehicles?
19 snowplow trucks, correct. But to answer your question, we are still operating with a handful of 1999 models.
Okay. Thank you.
So just to follow up on Samantha's question, so could you give me like a number of how many new, like what's your percentage of new trucks versus ones that still need replaced in the near future?
Or I can tell you specifically, we have 2 2019s. We got 3, actually 2 last year, and then a new one this year. So that this will bring us to 8 trucks within 3 years of age. So then prior to that, half of the fleet is 08s, and the other half of the fleet is 1999 models. So what we're trying to do is take those 1999s out of the fleet. And this gets us closer to that goal of eliminating all of them.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions? Anita?
Yes, through the chair, Kevin, can you provide us just a printed inventory of all the vehicles that are within your department, since we don't have a central like fleet, a motor pool, but a printout, you know?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Did you say all the vehicles or just specifically snowplow vehicles?
I'd like to know all the vehicles. I'm curious of knowing. It's not curiosity. I want to know what the city has and doesn't have. So from your department, I would like to know all the vehicles that are within your department.
Copy that.
Thank you.
Just to follow up.
Samantha?
Through the chair, Kevin. So you are, with these replacements, you're going to have a total of 19. I just want to be clear on what I'm counting here. We'll still have 6 or 7 that are 99s.
No, it's more like, I'm sorry, I don't have those specific counts. It's more like 4.
4. Okay. So, and your goal is to get all the 99s replaced, and then what's your interval of replacing these? I know last year we replaced some. I believe the year before you replaced some. So what's your interval after you get caught up?
It will ever be caught up, because it will just, we want to get rid of those 08s. So it's going to be a continuing upgrading of our fleet. Our goal was to get 2 new trucks.
I'm sorry. So are you saying like 2 new trucks every other year, or that's what I mean? Like, what's the interval once you get to a better space? What's the proposed interval, I should say?
Yeah, our goal is two new plow trucks every year.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Anything else for number 7 here? Okay, number 8. Questions? Okay. Number 9. Questions? All right. 10. Okay. 13. Sorry. And 11. 12. I have a couple questions. What do we know where we're putting these exactly? Do we have a use for them? Are they what are they open to the public? What's the story?
Through the chair.
Chuck?
Thank you. Yes, this was a grant that we received from the EPA. We received the grant several months ago, so now it's time to enter into the grant agreement. It's going to be for a total of 8 charging stations. The locations that we submitted to the EPA for approval are what we call the water department lot, the Old Crest, where the Old Crest building was, and also the public lot on the corner of 5th and Federal, next door to the fire station across from WRTA. Sorry, I have something in my eye. Sorry. At any rate, those, we'll have 4 charging heads at each one. There'll be 2 stations, and there's 2 heads per charging, two heads per station. So there'll be 8 total charging stations, and those are the locations we'll be placing them. We haven't determined any type of rates or payment terms on that yet, and we'll work through that as we go through the grant process.
What do you mean by that?
As far as to see what we would be charging fees to charge your vehicle.
Okay, so it is for public consumption, not just us.
Yeah, sorry, it is for public use.
Gotcha. Okay, Anita?
Yes, through the chair. Chuck, there's a cost to the city though, if someone plugs in, correct?
Through the chair, obviously, yes, there is, electric charges. It would be metered just like anything else, any other electricity that we use.
Now, was it a condition of this grant that we would have to provide free charging service?
Not that I'm aware of. No, I don't think anybody said that it had to be free. That's not the intent. So we would be covering our costs for people charging. This is just a means to add. There's public. There were public applications and private applications. So we obviously are going on the public one, which would have to be, which is why it's located on public property.
And who would staff or man these charging ports?
They don't need to be manned. They're just you plug your car in. We'll have to come up with some type of maintenance plan for them.
What's to prevent it from being vandalized or broken?
Guess nothing. I mean, they could vandalize a streetlight too.
Yeah, they could.
People do, and we fix it.
People shoot them out, but again, are we going to have to take any kind of precautions to make sure these things are safe?
I don't know that we would have to take precautions. I mean, we would have to maintain them. Like, I don't know what kind of precautions you would take.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out, and I'm in favor of this. I kind of support this because, when last week when Councilman Oliver was talking about the police cars, when I saw this on the agenda, I thought this might be a great time to have for the community police officers to go into electric cars. since we're gonna have charging stations and available for them to use those.
The condition of the grant is, through the chair, sorry. The condition of the grant is they have to be accessible to the public. So this
The
isn't,
public.
yeah, this isn't, wouldn't be for charging city vehicles. And I guess you could charge a city vehicle there, but we can't restrict access to them.
Through the chair?
Anita?
Yes, Chuck, what's the cost gonna be for us?
Through the chair, we'll have to run a service. It would be minimal. The grant is 100%. We came up with an estimate on what we feel that the charging stations would cost to install, and that's the amount that we applied for. So I don't believe that there would be much. There'll be some incidental expenses, but it wouldn't be $60,000 like the grant amount. It would be it's 100%. It's a 100% grant. We just have to bring the service to the machines.
To the chair?
I don't have an estimate for that yet.
Anita?
Yes, so this 60,000, that's to cover the cost of the equipment and the installation and the service for how long?
Through the chair, that's just the equipment and the installation costs.
So
We
again,
would have to pay for the electricity.
okay, so, but we don't have a cost yet on how much it will cost.
Through the chair, it would be, through the chair, it's just, I believe it's a 200 amp service. So it would be maybe to operate a couple streetlights maybe per year. It's a 220 volt service. So.
And yet we could not use, if the city had electric vehicles, we could not charge our electric vehicles at those charging stations, only the public?
Through the chair, it's open to everyone. So I guess, yes, we would be able to charge if we had electric vehicles, we would be able to charge them there. I can't imagine that would be adequate. If we had a fleet of electric vehicles, we would probably have our own charging. Just like we have our own gas pumps, we would have our own charging facility then.
Okay.
Chuck, is the concept that you're trying to make money for the city? Is this a revenue source for the city, or what's the?
Through the chair, I think the concept is we're trying to lead. We're trying to lead by example here, where we want to kind of set the trend on electric vehicles. Also, it's just another tool to bring people downtown. If you're going to go to dinner somewhere and said, "Oh, why don't we go here because we can charge our vehicle," that type of thing. So I mean, there's a lot of facets to it. And I think, frankly, it's the way of the future. We're behind if we don't do it. And we already got the grant. We either pass this and enter into the grant agreement by Monday, or they give it to someone else. So that's all.
Through the chair.
Anita?
So how long have we known about this grant?
Through the chair, several months now. I think we did some press releases and so forth.
I'm sorry, Chuck. I mean, this is the first I'm hearing of it. Did I miss it? Do we have some type of infrastructure meeting about it? A committee meeting?
Through the chair, we did not. I don't believe.
No, yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty small grant. I mean, it's not we're going to add 8 EV charging stations downtown. It's not a significant amount of money, I don't believe. It's not a major project.
What? But we have to collect money from the public somehow. You're going to charge people to charge their cars, you said.
Through the chair, we haven't worked those details out yet. So we will, as we work through the grant, those will present itself.
It seems pretty complicated, and to not have the answers to some of those. How are we going to secure it? What are the safety precautions that have to be around this electrical entity? What's needed from the city, both manpower and financials? We just
To the chair.
here for the grant and said maybe we'll get it, and if we do, we'll figure it out after. I see other hands up, so go ahead, Julius.
I was just going to state, just for the record, we could probably do better to work out details and figure out things if council as a whole was given information, particularly on things that are going on in their particular wards, so we can discuss things and hash out details. I definitely want to see the end of the days where things are brought to us last minute without our knowledge, and then we have to make decisions. Kind of getting tired of saying that. Thank you.
Anita?
Yes, to the chair. I mean, I kind of like the idea, but one thing I don't like is the idea that we're gonna provide free charging service, pay the cost of it to charge up someone's private car. That's this charging thing is vastly different from a street light as opposed to an individual's personal car. The only one who benefits from the car being charged for free at taxpayer expense is the owner of the car, whereas street lighting is for anyone who drives down the street. So it's not on the same plane. It's just not. And I'm going to say I concur with my my colleague, Councilman Oliver. This is last minute. This is very much last minute. I'll know tomorrow. I'll have more questions tomorrow, I'm sure. Thank you.
Masha?
Thank you through the chair. It was my understanding that although the rates or how we're going to charge hasn't been finalized, but it was, from what I'm understanding, the residents are not going to be charging their cars for free. We are going to be charging them somehow, correct?
Through the chair, that is my understanding, yes. I don't believe it would be, first of all, I don't believe it would be a major cost to charge them. Secondly, we wouldn't be, there's nothing that says that we have to do it for free.
Similar, just follow-up comments, similar to what like a meter would be, or how charging stations
Through
are
the chair,
in other
yes,
areas.
like when you go to a, when you go to a fuel station, you fuel up your car, you pay. So this would be very similar to
Thank
that.
you.
I don't know what the rates are, or we would have to determine that probably with the vendors. And then at some point, I would imagine we have to come back to council to determine a rate.
And the idea is just that it pays for itself, that we're collecting
yeah.
revenue stream, and that we have to
EPA,
fund, and what are we gonna use it for?
to be clear, the EPA is paying for these. We're not paying anything for them.
No, I mean,
No.
if we're charging people to charge their vehicles, that money coming in, what was the plan with that money? Was there something?
I guess through the chair, I guess my point is like, right now we're at the point of we're going to accept the grant or not. That's where we're at right now. The details, just like when we design a roadway, we accept a grant for a roadway, but then we design it, we're going to have to go through those details, which I'm sure we can come up with, before these things actually go in. We get a grant, then we design a road. In this case, we get a grant to put these in, then we're going to implement it, and council will be involved with the implementation.
I mean, it's one thing with the roads. We always have plans for grants for all the other stuff we do. So it's slightly, this is different in my mind. You need a plan here. But Samantha, you had your hand up.
Thank you. Through the chair, Chuck, my question is in regards to the Smart 2. So is this in conjunction with it? So we can say that the paving and the beautification that happens around it, and maybe the signage will come in via that, or is that additional cost that the city would need to put in? And then, and I mean, if you don't have these answers, then these are the questions that I would like to get the answers to when you do have. So I mean, I understand that the grant pays that 60,000 is going to pay for the 8 stations themselves, and the installation of said stations, but then the lot still needs to be beautified and paved and added to the aesthetic of the Smart 2, because I'm assuming that that's going to happen. So I would like to know like what that cost is, because I feel like that's going to be our city cost. And then, and if there isn't a vendor, I'm sure if you looked at, when you came with that 60,000 to apply for, I'm sure you looked at other places or other public entities that have charging stations, and if there is a cost for an outside vendor to monitor that, such as the credit card payments and things of that nature. So those are the type of questions that I have and would like to see some answers to. I think this is a step forward and builds on the growth of what Smart 2 is having, but there's just a lot of questions here that you know, it's hard for you. I know it's going to be hard for you to answer as not being prepared for this line of questioning today, but I understand the urgency of it. But I do want to know what is our cost in addition to the 60,000, because there seems to be more cost involved here.
Through the chair, to answer your question, Councilwoman, the only thing we have to do is run we've already started working on it. We've made provisions with the Smart 2 Fifth Avenue project to get service to the lot that we own. That's by the fire station across from WRTA. The lot needs improved because whether we put these charging stations in or not, I would like to improve that lot, the look of it. Though the Crest lot, the water department lot, the service is there. We have provisions ready to go. We'll have to make provisions to bring that service onto the site, which is minimal. I mean, I think we're talking about like maybe $5,000 or so to bring that service in on each lot. The Crest or the fire department lot, as I call it, is city owned, and it needs some sprucing up. It needs paved. There's some sidewalk work around it. It's our property. We should do that. So I guess my point is that yes, there is some other work to do, but it's really not part of this piece of legislation. And I think we could do as much or as little as we want with that fire department lot. So I guess that could remain to be seen. But the important part is that we have a limited amount of time to accept this grant and enter into the grant agreement. That's where we're at right now today.
Just a response. Thank you. So I definitely, I'm glad that we're forward thinking and making provisions in the Smart 2 to get power to that lot. And I agree that lot needs some work as well. That costs minimal or no sidewalk work, paving, beautification. That's still going to be at a cost to us. That is all a part of this project. So I just want to know what the project is overall, just to get it to the point where someone can drive up and plug their car in. So that's what I was saying with that, Chuck.
Just to answer and to clarify, to be very clear, all we have to do is put these charging stations in and we're done. It's already handicap accessible, which is a requirement. That's all we have to do. What do we want to do? I want to improve the lot because frankly, it doesn't look good. It's not an inviting place to park. As we look at the corridor of Fifth Avenue, we want to make some improvements there. So that's the goal, but that's a want, really not a need. We want to make it look better. I think everybody agrees with that, but we don't have to. It's not a condition of this grant. It's not extra work that we have to do if we accept this grant. So that's where we're at today is whether we're going to accept this grant or not for $60,000 to put the EV charging stations are going in one way or another. So, whether we do the lot improvements or not is another discussion, and we can take some more time to do that.
Anita?
To the chair, Chuck, what's the time frame that these things have to be installed? And is the condition of the grant that they be installed in downtown Youngstown?
Through the chair, the grants have to be installed, or the charging stations have to be installed in the 2 locations that I've listed because that's what was in the grant application. Can we expand later? And yes, but it does have to be installed on city-owned property. So, if you want the public grant,
and by what date?
we want to have them installed by fall.
Mike?
Thank you. No, I think, definitely probably due for a committee meeting to follow up with this. Sounds like at this point, to keep the project moving forward, it'd be a good idea to accept the grant. At least that's what I'm hearing. But I think all my colleagues raised some very good questions. They want to know the details, why they're selected there, what are we going to do? I think that's all great, but let's really, I mean, if there was something catastrophically wrong, I think, Chuck, there's probably always an out. But sounds like, to get this and have those in there and be progressive and moving forward to the direction things are going, especially, like my colleagues just talked about exploring, safety force electric vehicles and things like this. So I think let's just keep that moving in the right direction, and then to get all those other details worked out through the proper committee. That's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Mike. Chuck, is there anything in the grant that requires us to show back to them to maintain the grant? Do we have to report any usage numbers at any point in time or anything like that? Like, is there any risk involved in taking the grant and then not living up to the demands of it and having to pay it back?
Through the chair, as with all state or federal grants, there's a reporting period that we'll have to conform to. We do that on just about every grant that we get. I would say there's very minimal risk. I mean, the absolute worst risk is that we completely drop the ball and have to pay $60,000 back. That would be the absolute worst case scenario. This isn't a $4 million grant or anything. So I don't foresee that ever happening, but it's never happened in the 20 years that I've been here. But yes, there's some reporting that our department will have to do. We do it with just about every grant we get.
What are the reporting requirements for this one?
Probably usage requirement or usage metering and so forth, stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess my fear is that maybe there's some bare minimum usage requirements and we might not hit those.
Oh no, there's no minimum through the chair. There wouldn't be minimum usage requirements. That's not the case. You just have to make sure it's continually open to the public. You have to make sure that it is handicap accessible, ADA requirements, and then also you have to monitor and report usage like a copy machine. We do the same thing with copy machines.
Okay. And I'm sorry, remind me again when you found out you got the grant?
Through the chair, I can't recall when we were notified exactly. It was, I believe probably in February, maybe, I believe.
Okay, so why is it just seeing us then now?
Because we need the legislation to, we need legislation to pass to enter into the grant agreement.
Right, but if you found out you had the grant in February, why didn't you bring it to us in February, March, April?
I don't have an answer for that. I'm sorry. I have no excuse for that. Sorry.
Okay, that would have cleared a lot of our issues up and we would have had some time to digest this. So
Okay.
Just going back to Councilman Oliver, not to beat a dead horse here, but let's not go down that path. Just in general. We talked about resetting here recently, and let's just keep that in mind and not put this stuff on our plates like this. All right, any more questions?
City Chair, I believe Jimmy had his hand up.
Yeah, I just saw it.
Through the chair, I know we just had a infrastructure meeting, committee meeting, and my question is that how should we proceed when we have those meetings, those committee meetings in the future? When I hear now that facility down at the fire station, it needs to be improved. We hear that we have this grant coming up. We're putting this here, which is to me major, putting these 10 or 8 stations around. What should be the procedure when we have a meeting to be informed about these, and that is it incumbent upon us to put that on the agenda, or can we just ask a general question when the next meeting bring all this out and tell us what you got on the plate or on the table, because it was within the last month, we just had a meeting where this, what I think should have been brought up.
Through the chair, we had an agenda on the meeting. It was mostly paving, and we touched a little bit on the consent decree status. Frankly, I don't think we covered enough on the meeting as it is, and I think we only have infrastructure meetings,
Right.
you know, every so many months. If you would like to have them more regularly, just let me know. That's all.
Through the chair.
Oh, I get a lot of hands up, and I don't know who said that. I see Basha. Oh, I see Basha's hand.
Thank you, through the chair. Just a comment regarding this specific piece of legislation. I'm fine with moving forward with it. I think, you know, to talk about the details and other things in the future would be good to put it in committee. But overall, regarding what Jimmy stated, I know Councilman Oliver specifically mentions very frequently about things coming to council and council being informed. And I know we keep reiterating that. Perhaps our council clerks can put out an official memo and send it to administration, and then going forward, we just either just don't accept, take to second, third readings, defeat, or whatever needs to be done. So then administration is used to and understands that we're serious about getting things in advance.
Thanks, Basha. Julius?
Yeah, I just think us as city council, I mean, I tried to make the plea at the summit the other day at the hotel. I guess that fell on deaf ears. I just think we as city council have to really just start doing things to command the respect of the administration. And I can't be the only council person that gets frustrated about hearing about things that's going on in their ward. It seems as though plans are being made willy-nilly, and it's just like, here, council, this is what we decided to do, without us being able to contemplate whatever it is ourselves or be able to take it back to our constituency. So I just think it's time for us to really start demanding respect of city council. If anybody in the administration just feels like they could just run over council, and I feel like that's what's happening sometimes. It's just my statement. Thank you.
Julius. Anita, did you still have your hand up? Okay, not, okay, yeah, I mean, I don't, you know, I'm comfortable moving forward with this, Basha, as well. I don't want to miss out on, and I think this is a good opportunity, and I think Chuck's idea is a good idea, and I don't want it to fall through the cracks or us have to say no just because we're frustrated with the way it was brought to us. But you're right. My colleagues are right. It has to stop. We can't keep going through this. And I know we're off track talking about it here, but it's really, really frustrating for us at this point. And we've said it over and over and over and over and over again. Mayor, the mayor's not even on tonight. I don't see him on here, but hopefully that message can get across to him through the whole administration that is on here. So we'll move on. Chuck, thank you. Let me pick up where that was number 12. So we're on number 13 now. Any questions here? Oh, Basha.
Thank you, through the chair. Number 13, what exactly is this regarding? Is this with the police department, with the SERV, or who is?
Yeah.
So I would like to further discuss this in safety committee. So I'd like this to be moved to safety.
Okay.
Through the chair,
Anita.
I would like to see 13 and 14 both go to the safety committee.
14.
I believe that's another one that's dealing with serve.
That's not, I don't think that's SERV.
No, 13 and
17, 13 and 17.
13 yes.
Okay, 13 and 17 to the safety committee. Okay.
Correct.
We can mark that down when we make our motions. So then 14 is internet services. Questions here? Samantha?
Rick, this is just to upgrade the speeds overall, not adding or to anything for the buildings.
Well, we already have,
Okay.
through the chair, we already have the fiber infrastructure to the building, but right now we're running on 100 megabits per second, and this is for the upgrade to 500 megabits per second.
Thank you. And Rick, so is it to any of our other city buildings? Is it just for City Hall?
Through the chair. No, this is the internet service where all the city departments and buildings go out and come in to the internet.
Okay.
So everything's connected to City Hall and then goes out through this service.
Thank you.
Anything else on 14? All right, Mike?
Not to dwell, and this is technical, but I mean, will we see a sizable improvement, Rick? Or is this, or are we going to see better speeds or in better productivity in City Hall with this increase?
Through the chair. Definitely. I mean, jumping from 100 megabits per second to 500 megabits per second is a big increase. And I mean, with the onset of the police body cams, which will also be going through that, using up that bandwidth, and frequently we're uploading databases that are large. So that's going to increase, the throughput to, move data around much quicker. So, and we should see just a general performance increase, with all the city departments going out to the internet.
Thank you.
Good. All right, number 15, questions. Julia, oh, you're just stretching. Okay. Anyone else? All right. 16. Julius.
Yeah, I'm not stretching this time. Thank you, through the chair. Mike, what property is this 16?
This is the Anthony's, through the chair. This is the Anthony's on the river that we did the demolition on, 15 Oak Hill.
Yeah, so didn't council already kind of reject this? Like, why is it, this is a demolition from last year. Why is it back on the agenda this year? The demolition was done last year. How could we even pay for that out of this year's budget?
Through the chair, I'm gonna have to let Kyle answer that question,
Through the chair,
or the mayor.
may I address council, Lauren?
Yeah, Kyle, go
Yes.
ahead.
When we put together the budget with regards to demolition, it's not defined in the budget which particular properties that we are demolitioning. So the fact that council chose not to fund it last year, the administration is putting it in front of council, asking that it be considered to be funded with this year's budget. And that is why it is on the agenda.
Julius.
Thank you, through the chair. So I don't know who I'm talking to at this point, but so my feelings of this building being unjustly torn down, not being in a situation where it was causing public safety problems to the public, also letting the administration, both Nikki, the mayor, and Jeff Limbian at President Tressel's house, know that I did not want this building torn down, that I had interested parties in this building to be able to put it back in use. And then the building to be torn down abruptly the next morning. I'm still not in favor of, like, y'all got to get this, how y'all get it, because this building was unjustly torn down. So I don't understand why it's back on the agenda.
Through the chair.
I don't know who that was. Basha has her hand up.
Thank you through the chair. I was going to kind of ask the same thing, how we can pay for it, if it was done last year and council did not pass it. And from my understanding, I thought there was some kind of like pending litigation regarding this. So I would think it shouldn't even come before us. It needs to be settled in court. And then if it's deemed that the contractor needs paid, then it would be done so through that funding, not through our regular demolition funding. Would that be a correct analysis? Someone from the law department? Isn't this in litigation?
I think Jeff is on. Jeff Limbian.
Yes, through the chair. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. This is poised to be filed. The attorney for the gentleman who is the man who did the demolition. He has an attorney by the name of Mark Lavelle, who has indicated that he's poised to file an action, and rather than go through the expense of litigation, we thought we would bring it to council to readdress and see if there has been a change of heart, hoping that we can avoid further expense, because one way or another, the city is going to be responsible to pay for this.
Okay. Anita.
To the chair, this is for both Jeff, Attorney Limbian, and our finance director. What would be the difference, first off, to Attorney Limbian? Is there a substantial difference in how much it would cost for us to pay this outright versus going through litigation? What would be the additional cost of going to court? That'd be my first part of my question. How much more would it cost us?
Well, that's an unknown. Oftentimes there are costs of litigation, not only from us. First of all, we would be expected to turn it into our insurance carrier. We could make the decision to handle it internally, which is perfectly fine. We'd be more than happy to do that. Sometimes the insurance carrier overrides us and decides that it's a matter that they're going to handle, which would mean another, at a minimum, $25,000. If we handle it internally and a court determined that we were obstructionists in paying something that the city should have paid a long time ago, there could be additional damages paid to the demolition company for failure to pay timely.
Okay, thank you. Follow up to the chair?
Go ahead, Anita.
Yes, Kyle. Either way, would it come out of the general fund?
Through the chair,
Kyle.
it is going to come out of the environmental sanitation fund because we are doing demolitions. That's where that was budgeted for. So that'll come out of the environmental sanitation fund.
Basha.
Thank you through the chair. As a follow-up, so this particular piece of legislation is for the monetary amount that we owe the company for the demolition. However, I believe even if we pass this legislation and we pay the company, I believe that the gentleman that owned the building is still going to go take the matter to court because he feels we unjustly demolished his property. So wouldn't it make sense just to keep everything together? If we're going to go to litigation and pay costs either way, because we're going to be taken to court for demolishing the building, I almost feel that this should just stay packaged with that whole situation, I guess. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Through the chair, can I address council?
Go ahead.
The demolition is something that we entered into, in essence, contract with the party because we asked the party to take down the property. We ultimately, if we end up going to court, each of those circumstances will be separate because we're being sued. If we were to be sued by the party that owned it, the insurance company would look at that as a separate claim. So if we can at least get out from underneath and having our insurance company negotiate and upcharge us for that cost of the demo. It's in our best interest, financially to pay that vendor for that work. And then the law department having to address if there is a lawsuit by the owner for the removal of that property, then dealing with that. And if our insurance company steps in, it would be then covered under our coverage and we would be out the deductible. But they are both separate incidents with regards to our insurance company.
And Bosch,
May
did you-
may I ask a direct follow-up? Thank you for explaining that, Kyle. May you remind me what vendor I do feel the vendor would eventually need to be paid because they completed work. I'm just curious who was available, if there was conversation had about not demolishing the building on Friday afternoon and the demolition company was available 6 a.m. the next morning. I'm just curious, what company do we owe? Who had that sort of availability?
Through the chair, I think Mike Durkin could handle answering the vendor and some of those questions. I was not part of that whole discussion of it prior to it being taken down. So let me hand that off to him.
Mr. Durkin?
Through the chair, Councilwoman, can you repeat the question again?
Sure. Can you let me know what vendor, because like I said, they're going to need paid because they completed the work, but can you remind me what vendor did that demolition that 6 a.m. that Saturday after the discussion on Friday afternoon of not demolishing, and then they came out?
Yeah, but through the chair, that was Steel Valley Contracting.
Okay, thank you.
Julia?
Thank you, through the chair. For me, it's not a matter of cost. It's a matter of doing right by our property owners, business owners, and citizens. I've had multiple phone calls and emails of people who call me and say their house or their property was torn down and there wasn't anything wrong with it. One I just finished dealing with, which is on the west side. Mike, you know what I'm talking about. So the utilities were cut from this property, and then upon a certain phone calls, all of a sudden the utility was hooked back up, and it's not being demolished anymore. So for me, it's something deeper going on, and I if it all got to be brought out on the council floor now, that's fine with me. But there's something going on with these demolitions that isn't right to the property owners, and we can't keep letting this happen. This building was not unsafe. The facade, the brick facade falling off the front of the building did not justify tearing the building down because it was set back well off the sidewalk. The roof bowing was not an issue that was going to cause the walls to cave in. We have buildings that are up right now in the city with the roofs gone that it fell in, but the building is still standing without the walls. One is on South Avenue in my ward right now. So for me, it's about doing right by our citizens. We can't just run around tearing down people's property without justification. And in this particular building, I stated I did not want this building torn down. There was a scramble from the administration. Oh, what are we going to do? They know the building's getting torn down. It's going to be in the paper the next day. He's on the phone with Dave Skolnick. And lo and behold, the building is torn down early the next morning. Early, like 6 o'clock. It's like, how in the world does a building go from having a discussion where, hey, this is on legislation, how do we deal with this? I don't want this building torn down, to being torn down early the next morning. Like it's way too much involved in that for us to go ahead and pay this bill like everything is fine. We owe more to our citizens.
Through the chair,
Nikki?
this is Nikki. May I address, please?
Yeah.
I just want for the record to be clear, since my name was mentioned. Yes, I was part of that discussion with Councilman Oliver, with the mayor, and with Jeff Limbian. However, I do not have the authority to deem any building safe or unsafe. So yes, we did have a discussion about a potential person that Councilman Oliver wanted to have this building, but once it's declared a demo, that is nothing that I can do. I can't do anything about that. So I just want to make sure that was on the record.
Hi, Mike.
I could certainly, through the chair, I can certainly appreciate Councilman Oliver's frustration, and I see the issues he's raising. However, that does not change the fact that the city had a demolition done and the city's obligated to pay it. And unfortunately, if we go to litigation and we have to pay damages on top of that, the $48,000 now increases because of litigation costs and because of the potential damages that we might have to pay, or insurance deductible, or all those other things. We still have to pay it because it was done. I think those other issues can be solved in another matter. None of those change the fact that we still owe it contractually. And I think the best thing I would say, in the course of, as our fiduciary responsibility, is pay the bill because we owe the bill, and sort out those other issues at another time. That's my perspective on the matter.
Anita?
To the chair, I'm in agreement with Mike. Everything that some of the things that Joe said are correct, but right now what we're talking about is paying a bill that the city, and we are part of the city, that we have asked someone to do a service. They did it and believing that we were acting in good faith, that we would pay the bill. And I don't like how it was done, but it is our bill that needs to be paid at this time. I just can't see, because if we don't take care of this bill, and then we start going to some other company and saying, we need to do this, this, and this, and they're going to say, are you going to stiff me too? That's where we're at right now. So, I believe that this bill needs to be done with, and then we go to court, fight whether or not that guy, the owner of the property, that's a separate thing. He can argue his point about the safety of the building and everything else, but the bill is what we're talking about right now. That's just me.
Okay. I
Through the
don't see
chair.
any more hands. I think I got everybody. Oh, Samantha.
Thank you. Jeff, the language of the ordinance suggests as though this is something to happen. Can you put in the date on here so that it's very clear that this has already happened? And honestly, and I'll say, and I'll tell you why. When I read this, it didn't even click that it was the old Anthony's, and then I had to go back and look at the piece of legislation from before that we had defeated back last summer. So I'm not saying that it was deceptive in any way, but it didn't click to me originally. So I would like to ensure that there's some clarity provided in this ordinance.
Through the chair, yes, we'd be happy to make that adjustment.
Anyone else on this piece? Jimmy?
Yes, this is real quick. Through the chair, I'm in complete agreement with Councilman Oliver, and I think we should repeat what we did prior. And that's all I have to say. That's my opinion.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else. Okay, I'm gonna move on then. That was number 16. So number 17 is we are sending the safety. Number 18. Was
Through the chair.
It was talked about during budget season. Samantha?
Thank you. I had a question about 17 while we had the chief here.
What? 17.
It's about the 114.
Can I wait for the safety committee or?
Safety committee.
Is he here?
Okay. Safety committee meeting. So when we talk about it there, you can bring it up.
I'd like to ask him a question now.
Okay.
Thank you. Chief, during budget talks, I requested that this 114 be moved over into serve. I wanted to know if you have prepared a proposal or a budget, excuse me, budgetary changes for this 114 going into serve.
No, I have not. I don't know if is Guy Burney on this call?
No. So we'll just address it.
Yep.
Did you have that prepared for the safety meeting?
Yeah, we will.
Thank you so much.
Through the chair, may I address council?
Kyle?
I just want to make everybody understand correctly. The money is being spent out of Opta Traffic for CIRV. We're not transferring money from Opta Traffic into the police department. This money, the request is to be expended out of the Opta Traffic. That's where the funds are, but they would be for that particular service. And as Councilman Turner is asking, yes, we appreciate that you'd like to have a budget detail, and we will make sure that that is provided. But the money will be coming from that fund where the money was deposited from Opta Traffic's collections. Okay.
Thanks, Kyle.
You're welcome.
And just to follow up to Cal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you
Cal?
need? I'm sorry. Hang on, Samantha. You have another question about 17 because we're trying to move on from it. We weren't going to discuss it here. We were sending it to safety.
Yep, just one more question. Do you know, and Chief Davis, you can jump in here, if there is anything that's pressing, or is this to expand the program overall?
Through the chair, that would be something that Chief Davis and Mr. Burney would have to answer. I do not know much of what the money is going to be used for, other than there was that request at the time of the budget to set aside those funds for expanded services.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, number 18. Questions here. Okay, number 19. Questions here. Number 20 is discretionary. 21 through 23 are discretionary. 24 is discretionary. 25. Questions here. 26. Looks like that one goes with the one above, number 18. Questions? Anita?
Yes, through the chair. Mike, could you give us another briefing real quickly about this position?
Sure.
Mike?
Through the chair.
Go ahead.
But yeah, this does go along with number 18. The one is the budget, and the other is to increase the code enforcement officers that we have on the master salary code from 1 to 2. Right now we have 4 inspectors, and we will go to 5. One of those inspectors will become a code enforcement officer / inspector, and then with this addition, we will end up having 5 total in our department, which is where we were at when I first started, but we've dwindled down with retirements. So I'm just trying to get back there slowly but surely. But the code enforcement officer there will be 2 of them instead of 1, which we have right now. And we'll kind of split them up, one on the north side of the river and one on the south side. And we'll go from there. And then along with our housing strategy and all of that stuff coming into play, this will be a huge help, and then augment our community police officers. So they will be doing code enforcement though. So each one of those officers will have a award to handle on top of, doing their normal duties.
Thanks, Mike. Anything else? Okay. Ordinance 21-152, I believe was signed out of the safety committee recently, last week. Questions? All right, and ordinance 21-165 was also signed out of safety last week. So are there any final questions? Okay, all right. That is everything under pending legislation. Anything under miscellaneous?
May I address council?
Go ahead, Kyle.
I want to make sure, given that I know the council is in support of putting together a potential arrangement between Oak Hill Collaborative and the city. I know that we're going to try to address this at the next council meeting. It's come to my understanding that a number of us are going to be on vacation in the administration during the next 2 weeks, and at the same time, people from the collaborative. So I spoke with the law department this afternoon, and anything that we could do to work with you to get this accomplished in the next week would be very helpful so that we can bring this to closure and have everything correctly in place so that at the next council meeting, you'll be able to address it. And then we potentially in Board of Control could then execute it the following week. So I look forward to working with you. I just want to give you a heads up that we have some timing conflicts due to vacation requests and people not being available. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kyle. Okay, I don't see anyone else for miscellaneous. All right, so I will take a motion.
Thank you. Through the chair, I would like to make a motion to forward ordinances 5 through 12, 14 through 16, 18 through 26, as well as ordinance 21-152 and ordinance 21-165 to the council as a whole for consideration of passage.
Second.
I would also like to make a motion to forward ordinances number 13 and number 17 to the safety committee.
Second.
Okay. And a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 5:33.